young love is more romantic than logical. But I think a lot of times it makes sense to talk about more logical, logistic stuff in your relationship as well, like something realistic, something tangible. What do you expect each other to do? If you have good communication, it will feel better in the long term.
Give them the information, be direct
and straightforward.
A lot of the misunderstanding and drama comes from like just not talking about it.
In my experience, the ones I've heard go bad are the ones where you're trying to place your own feelings or your perception of trying to help the other person rather than just being direct about it and letting them react the same way, or trying to protect yourself to make yourself seem like a good person, right? Instead of just dealing with the reality of give them the information, be direct, and then they are allowed to react however they want about it.
The most important thing is to look at how two of you interact with each other and then come up with a sensible way to handle it.
In person versus text, I think, is up to you and your level of comfort. If you don't think you can do it in person, then text is okay, but the less preferred one.
It's actually in Chinese, where and in the heart rhyme and in the end, so it sounded very cute to me. So where are you? I'm in your heart. 你在哪里？我在你心里. I like it.
I would just go with like the regular, just like, what are you watching on television? So just getting them to talk about an interest in that kind of thing. I don't know if I have very much game for a pickup line.
It's really hard.
I know like a lot of times younger people like to focus on now, like what do you feel right now? But a lot of times, especially when you're in different stages in life, you have different conversations, you have different life in general. It's harder and harder as you move on. So I would say talk about it right away and talk about expectations. What do you expect each other to do during this time before you get to college?
Again, trying to get to the truth of the situation, right? Like, realize that that's like the hardest jump, I think, for young relationships, and trying to get beyond the feelings and like deal with the reality of like, this may not work.
A lot of people choose to break up before going to college. I think that's very, very, very practical, but understandable in some way. But if you really care about a relationship and try to, still stay in touch, but if you feel like the other person, it's kind of, sometimes it's harder to communicate with each other when two people are at different type of school, and it could end up being a little problematic. But I think just do whatever you can depending on the situation, how it goes.
And so I think, great, try to make it work, right? But maybe try to have a conversation that's even like, hey, if it's not working for you, I'd rather you tell me early on than either lying to me, cheating on me, or that kind of thing.
I wouldn't mind taking my significant other to wherever he wanted to go.
I'm all for when you date to go to somewhere you can talk. So I would not recommend going to a movie.
I'm all about activity, Topgolf, bowling, mini golf.
So anything that you can do together and talk at the same time.
Just pay attention to what they like. It doesn't have to be something super expensive or valuable, like a little thing, a certain type of candy or certain type of little thing, and just get it, and then they know that you care about them, you are listening to them.
It just depends on what you want the other person to feel, but definitely don't overspend. Yeah, I would say chocolate's pretty good. Cards pretty good. Write something nice. It depends on the other person's love language as well.
My advice would just be to make reservations and show that you thought about it rather than buying anything.
I would say if you don't have a committed relationship, if you enjoy it, then it doesn't hurt. But if it bothers you, then you should definitely make it clear that it's not okay.
For people to be to tell you that they like you, that it does take courage for a lot of people to do it. Be grateful, and definitely, if you are not interested, you can be very candid and honest. But very often, when we don't know how to respond to the situation, a lot of people just all of a sudden being very cold or distant, and because they don't know how to say no, and but that could be very hurtful. To figure out something, so you can be present somewhere, and then you get to talk to the person, not in a very awkward way. Just think about that. Yeah.
Take care of yourself. If you take care of yourself, you be the best version of you, then the right people will come around. Don't try to force yourself to be someone that you're not gonna enjoy being. I think a lot of times it also works better long term, especially when you're looking for something more stable.
A lot of times I've seen stuff where people just get way too caught up in it being like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, instead of just being like, hey, if this person's gonna like me, it's gonna be because of my personality and not because of any of these like initial external things. And so like being yourself, but also engaging with them. You either ask them or you find a friend to ask them.
Different personalities obviously give different signs. I think you just have to kind of, through time, observe, how this person interacts with other people and how the person interacts with you. You can see if there's a difference, or is it the same way that the person interacts with everyone.
Sometimes for girls, I feel like you can listen to the pitch of their voice. The pitch is higher, and they look more feminine somehow. Well, I guess we just have to deal with it, because what else can you do?
You won't get everything you want in life. If they are good together, it's usually better if you just, give them the blessing and then move on. But if you really can't give up, I think it's always good to you can express yourself, but don't try to ruin the relationship.
You should prioritize friendship over any sort of significant other connection, especially if it's a long friendship. So I think getting on the same page as the friend, but also like getting over your own ego and like just kind of being like, hey, if that's a connection, right, then I don't think you should try to like put your personal relationship with your friend up the lines. Don't force it. If it's gonna happen, it will, and it will happen. I don't know. I didn't start dating until I was 23, and I'm stuck in one 10 years later. So if it happens, it's gonna happen. Yeah, you don't need to force it.